So this week's opener, I guess I should give a little bit of a disclaimer. So last episode we talked about how we gained like 50 subscribers. Well, that was because I purchased an ad, like a cheap ad on YouTube itself. Not through like some like weird third-party site, just through YouTube itself. Which you would think would be like reputable, right? Like it seems like if you purchase an ad from YouTube, so. Right. Well, we got a bunch of subscribers, but I'm not trying to like, maybe there's like we have a large following in like some country. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, but I just will say that if I were judging the accounts by, the appearance, I don't think they're real people. And I think that's really unusual that we tried to buy in. We said, okay, we give up YouTube. We'll pay for advertising. Yep. And the outcome was like we went to Fiverr and paid somebody $5 to give us 100 subscribers. Like, I mean, like, I don't feel like these are real people. So I wanted to start the show this week by saying, if you're watching this on YouTube and you are a real person, please leave a comment saying, I'm a real person, because I'm beginning to doubt.
Yeah, me too. Because we were both looking at it and it's very odd.
So please do that. If go ahead and put your social security number and your address, mother's maiden name. We really want to be sure that you're real people.
We're gonna check too.
Welcome to Crowbar Kernel Panic, the podcast at the intersection of Linux and gaming. This is episode 44. This episode is pre-recorded and will be released on our YouTube, on iTunes, and other podcast apps. Please like, subscribe, and comment, especially if you're a real person. However you prefer to enjoy the show, send us an email at crowbarkernelpanic@pm.me and join us on Discord. I have a link to the Discord in the show notes. We got some comments to read. This week and an email.
Real people.
Yeah, we at least know these two people were real, or they're really good. They're really good AI bots. That could be the thing, is if AI just gets so good that we just don't care anymore. We get enough interaction from the AI. I'll live in that oblivion. So last episode we said for you to leave a comment saying why you are a Linux gamer. That was episode 43. If you're hearing this now and you have a response to that, go back to that episode and leave your comment. We'll read it on the show. So Ancient24, who is also a member of our Discord, comments on most of our videos. He said, my reason for becoming a Linux gamer is that it's become too much of a hassle to stay a Windows user. They are too that's how I feel, by the way. When I read that was like preach,
hit home.
Ancient. Yeah, that hit home. That's the thing for me. It's not really about the gaming. It's just that outside of gaming, I don't want to use Windows. They are too opinionated nowadays, and it's more of a time sink trying to find the de-bloating tools. Exactly. Or
Tell me about it.
Or having to worry about how to disable telemetry, only for it to be reverted by an update you can't stop. Let's see, it goes on, read more. The only downside is that sometimes you can't be there day one with the rest of the gaming community, but that's becoming rarer as well. On the flip side, Linux gaming with Proton and Wine enables us to play some older titles where I see people now either running VMs or buying dedicated late 90s hardware. One fun thing I recently did was running older Sierra City Builder games. Sierra, I was thinking of they have a bunch of old point and click games that I remember my dad playing through GameScope and getting FSR to sharpen it. Yeah, that's a really good point.
That is a good point.
We do cover emulation in like older games and stuff, but I've never thought of it as like a strength of the Linux gaming community. So maybe we should lean into that a little bit more. I was testing out like the PlayStation emulators and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun. It really, it really kind of scratched that old itch that we used to have, where it was like, oh, I got to get this game working and I got to do this and that. And now Proton's kind of taking all the fun out of that hacking, you know?
Much.
So, but you still get a little bit of that tweaking the settings to make some old PlayStation game run just right.
Yep.
We also had a comment on episode 42. It's a comment on episode 42, but he's actually commenting about episode 37. So,
comment inception.
Yeah, this is a past video about a past video. Says, hey, I just saw episode 37 when you talked about the many pains of installing and trying Intel Arc on Linux. Has it gotten better? Or are you still, or is still something that the next kernel or Mesa version will hopefully solve? So I have been running fantastic this week.
Yeah,
I haven't had an issue with it for a while, and for a while there I was using Arch because I wanted to be on the bleeding edge kernel. Recently, I installed Pop OS. I don't even know what kernel it has installed, but everything
actually has a pretty new kernel. They actually roll their own now. I think it's equivalent to Fedora. Like, it's not the same kernel, but it's like the equivalent version or very close to it. Because I just installed it recently, like on a secondary drive, just to check it out, and I think it had 6.4, as far as I know. Okay.
Yeah, it's running really good. It's I'm on Wayland, which is I think another key to using the Arc.
Yeah, me too. And it's been great.
Yeah, and I was scared. I was scared of that whenever we were talking about buying the Arc A770, and even after I got it and I realized that like even like vanilla Ubuntu would run on Wayland, but I couldn't get it to run on X. Now that was months ago. It's probably working now. Yeah. But I was scared to use Wayland because, you know, I'm an old school Linux gamer and everything has had to run on Xorg for forever. And I've been really impressed by the performance of Wayland. I actually was playing, I spent way too much time playing these private server World of Warcraft. And I'm not interested in anything that came out in the last 20 years. I only want to play vanilla World of Warcraft. So I've been playing a lot of that, and it just hit me today that like I've been playing and I didn't even think about that I was on Wayland. Like it's been working fine. Yeah. I haven't had any changes or anything.
I've been extremely late in the past 2 months. I've been extremely happy with my Arc GPU. Like, yeah. Well, I have an update on that later, but I mean, it's great. Like Wayland's working flawlessly. I have another thing that is Wayland problematic, which is what I'm going to talk about later with the refresh rate of my monitor. X, super easy to fix that. That's actually not that bad. I found a bunch of articles on how to increase refresh rates on a 60 hertz monitor for X, but Wayland is like just a unicorn to try to find anything about it.
I think now's a good time to talk about that. I mean, it's relevant to the topic. So what's going on with your why are you trying to change your refresh rate in the first place? You're just trying to use the highest refresh rate possible for your monitor?
So this is the thing. So when I first got the Arc, I had two 144 hertz 24-inch monitors. Mm-hmm. The one was that like stupid like one that I freaking ripped out the guts and put a new board in it to get it to have your G-Sync.
Your hack monitor. Yeah,
my hack monitor. That one did not work with Arc at all, and I thought it was the Arc card for a long time. And then I pulled out an old monitor that I had. It's only 60 hertz, and I plugged it in. Fine, works great, wonderful. But 144 hertz and a 60 hertz monitor sucks because you can feel the lag. As soon as you go over to that 60 hertz, I can't even stand the mouse moving because it's so laggy.
And you just know that you have a monitor that is capable of more and you're not able to use it.
Well, this is the thing. It's only 60 hertz. The monitor is not 144.
Oh, okay. So you're wanting to change it so that you can use the hack monitor again.
I want to overclock this monitor.
Oh.
Because so in Windows, it's super easy. There's a program that does it, and you just click a button, and I got it up to 75 hertz, which is the highest it would go. But it made a huge difference. Like, I don't care. It looks good enough, even at 75 hertz.
I've never heard of this.
I haven't
really?
either until I really was like pressed against the wall to figure out how am I going to do this.
I feel like, all right, I'm not saying it's a placebo effect. You're positive that
I am absolutely 150% positive. The only thing that is worse is the ghosting is a little worse on the monitor. But I can live with that because I have a VA panel and the VA panels just ghost like crazy. So I'm used to that.
So what you're asking the audience for is if anybody out there knows of a way to, what did you call it? To
overclock the monitor, but bump the refresh rate above 60 hertz on a 60 hertz monitor using Wayland, because I want to use Wayland. Fedora is getting rid of X in the next version anyway, or subsequent versions. So I want to make sure.
You could do this in X though, right? You said?
Yes. There's plenty of articles on how to do it in X. You just make a config and it does it.
Okay. Wow.
But Wayland is just a whole other beast. Like, you can't find articles on Wayland to do things yet. It's not old. Well, it's old enough, but it's not been used enough.
It's not adopted enough.
Yeah.
I've never been in that need before. I guess I'm humble bragging about how nice my monitors are. But no, I would say honestly, honest to God, because before this monitor, I never bought a nice monitor. I would always get like hand-me-downs from my dad's work. Or something, which I should cut that out in case anybody listening for my dad's job. I would or like the local school system or something. But I've never but I think my eyesight is bad enough that I don't think I notice. For me, the fact that it's larger but not stretched out is what matters. Like,
that's what I need. That's why I need two monitors. That's my thing. And when they're different refresh rates, you notice immediately.
I don't think I could notice. I really don't think I could.
I bet you could, dude.
I mean, I think I could tell the difference between 60 and no, I don't think I could. I don't think my eyesight is good enough.
Okay, but I'm telling you, man, I can see it is an immediate difference. As soon as you drag that mouse across,
I might could feel it.
You can tell.
The way you describe it, I might could feel it. Overseeing it.
Right.
All right, so we got an email. This is our first ever email to the podcast email. We actually were thinking like the email must not work because we've been shouting it out every week and no one's ever sent us one, but we got one from Dale, also in the Discord. I like that he emailed us instead of just posting it in the Discord. I think it's because,
even though he's in the Discord.
I know.
Still emailed us.
I think it's because we were so worried about the email not working that he was like, well, I'm going to send him one.
Yeah, exactly.
So he says, hey, Josh and Bo, I thought I would suggest a new gaming distro challenge using Red Core Linux. It has a long history and is based on Gentoo. Oh my God.
Compile all the things.
It uses the Calamares installer and precompiled binaries.
Okay. So precompiled binaries.
Yeah. So now there is no excuse not to try Gentoo. Exactly.
Just knife in the heart.
That's like, now whenever I install Arch, I use the Arch installer, which like takes all the fun out of it. It feels so different. So I'm sure Gentoo users feel the same way.
Yeah. You're not a true Gentoo user. It's like Manjaro users for Arch.
He sent us a link actually related to the topic you were just talking about, ultra wide versus dual monitors.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that section.
So, all right. So you shared a link here too. Ultra wide versus dual monitors. Which should you choose? Oh, okay. So I was reading this article about ultra wide monitors versus dual monitors. What do you think is the best task oriented computing and for gaming? Someone just asked me this question at work, like Thursday.
Okay.
Let's go on what Dale says before we give our answers. So he says, I don't mind having two monitors as long as they are treated as two separate monitors. No matter how thin the bezel is, there's always a noticeable line separating the two monitors. Ever since going back to one monitor using an ultra wide, I don't miss the bezel. What would you say to the trade-offs between performance versus immersion? or ultra wide monitors. For ultra wide monitors, you need the graphics card to support all the pixels. Yep, that's exactly right. I learned that the hard way. I knew that it would have an impact, but I didn't realize the impact it would have. It was greater than I thought. If not, you're going to need to play the game at a lower resolution than the monitor supports. With dual monitors, you can play at the native resolution in most cases, but you have the bezel in the center of your view. Keep up the great work with the podcast. I look forward to each episode. Thank you, Dale. Thank you, Dale. Yeah, so that's what he just said is exactly how I feel about it. Well, all right, let me back it up. It's how I used to feel. I forever did two monitors, and you have to have it as two separate monitors. Of course, it's if you do it as one large monitor, then you got the whole thing with the bezel. Yeah. But looking past that, see what I did there? Looking past that, now that I'm used to an ultra wide, I don't think I could go back. I really enjoy the ultra wide.
That's been my fear ever since 1440p came out. Like in general, because I don't want to bump up because I don't want to not want to go back.
So I will tell you, there's a few things that I miss, but I kind of just want to get another monitor. I don't want to lose my ultra wide. Okay. But I use a tablet a lot because if I'm playing a game, I want to watch. A lot of times I play kind of mind-numbingly monotonous grinding games, right? And I'm listening to a podcast or watching a video or something while I'm doing it.
Yep, I know what you mean.
I've used applications on Windows like Overwolf, and I've even done the trick where you can say you want your Chrome or your Firefox browser to always be on top, and then try to resize it so that it fits into your your play space. But it's still just not. And that does work, but it's like an extra hassle. What I've gotten in the habit of doing is either my phone or my tablet I have on the desk, and I'm using that for YouTube while I'm gaming on the monitor, or even when I work. So one of the main reasons I got an ultra wide and got away from the dual monitor setup was I was trying to use my work laptop. And it just had some weird issue with using both my monitors at once. I could get it to hook up and use one monitor, but it never would use both. And so I just said, screw it. I'll just whenever COVID, like when we started working from home, like more than working in the office, I just said, screw it. I'll just buy an ultra wide. I'll get around this problem by throwing money at it. And so it's great for work. It's great for work. Using work from home has been a lot better using ultra wide versus just a single monitor.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
And gaming on an ultra wide is really nice, but it is very true that I would get better performance if I had a smaller monitor. Yeah. So it is quite a trade-off of performance versus immersion, is what he called it.
Yeah. See, I can't really say on the ultra wide because I've never had one, but my fear with getting an ultra wide would be I do the same thing as you with I have videos on the side or like a guide or something, because sometimes I'm, just want to get through a part of a game or whatever. I played through a game 100 times and I want to find an extra bit of something, whatever.
You're looking up the cheats. I know what it is. You don't want to admit you're looking up the cheats.
Yep. I'll say it. I look at the cheats. It's fine. Whatever.
When I was a kid, that's a new game. You know what I mean? It's like, I play the game this way.
GTA. Come on.
This is a whole new game.
But yeah, so and with an ultra wide, it would be like weird for me to have like your game in the middle in a window and then have stuff on the side. Like that's how I would envision using it. And I'm like, then I'm wasting all that space.
Yeah. I've done that before too. Like when I first got the ultra wide, but I had not yet upgraded to the ARC. My old graphics card was it was new enough because I always played in 1080. I never really realized how old it was. But when I started trying to play it on higher resolutions, I couldn't play certain games. Final Fantasy 14 remake just wouldn't play.
Choked, yeah.
But if I put it opened in a window at 1080, then it would work, and I would have it in a window over here, and then over here I would have something else. And theoretically, it should be the same as having two monitors, right?
Yeah,
but it's not. It don't feel the same.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's the other part of it. I don't want to bump up to 1440 or 4K, and then I don't know. I don't know why. Well, part of it is because I don't want to have to buy a new GPU and get more, have less frames for the same game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you will.
It's not that much of a bump for me, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's really great for video editing. Although the funny thing is, because I'm using the Proxmox video editor build that we talked about in the last episode, I'm back to using my old 1080 monitor to edit videos. I'm not even using this. So I've already decided to, once that, so I'm guessing that my cancellation fee for Adobe will get smaller as the time passes.
Yeah, right.
So I'm waiting for that thing to get to a small enough chunk that I'm just going to cancel it because it's not worth it. The feature that anyway, this is a whole tangent that's got nothing to do with what we're talking about, but Caden Live, I'll be back soon. And then I'll be using the ultra wide monitor again.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm ultra wide for life now, I think.
Awesome.
But there's drawbacks is what I'm saying.
Have yet to be seen for me.
Yeah. No, I think it would be hard to get used to the other, but at the same time, there are drawbacks. It's not all roses.
And just one last note is, if I were to game with multiple monitors, right now I game just on my single monitor in the middle. That's the only one I do. If I were to game on all three, I would have to have 3 monitors, and the other 2 monitors would have to be like the side views. That would be the only way I could even remotely do it.
I don't know how people even set that up. That's like way above my pay grade.
Yeah, that'd be it. But anyways, that was just the last little tidbit I had to add.
I got to fix my light real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Let me see if I... All right. So thanks for the email, Dale. And I'm glad to know the email works. So
yeah, I'm happy too.
If you out there want to help us test our email inbox, please send us an email.
Yeah.
Crowbar Kernel Panic at pm.me. Maybe the podcast name's just too long. They're like, it's just not worth.
Kind of what I thought. And like, I'm thinking maybe people are sending it to like Crowbar Kern Panic. Because they don't like
Crowbar. Yeah, I think I talked about that on the podcast. One of my coworkers said I listened to that Crowbar Corn Pop show.
Well, okay, so I tried to get CKP, but that one was taken immediately, obviously. So that didn't work.
CKP pod maybe or something. I don't know. Well, we got this now. Good. It's what it is. Work those fingers out.
It is what it is. Use it or lose it.
Crowbar Corn Pop. We should do that on Halloween.
We should. That'd be great.
Whatever show that is. Crowbar Corn Pop.
Make little corn pops with Crowbar Kernel Panic on.
Yeah. All right, so this episode we have some drama to talk about. Although I think it's all kind of sunset. We saw the beginning of the drama, the peak, and then I think now it's kind of setting that back down. It's definitely
settling back down.
But I really thought this was interesting. So what we're talking about, if you've been living under a rock, Unity changed their pricing structure. Or actually, they didn't change their pricing structure. They proposed a change to their pricing structure. More than a proposal. Proposal's downplaying it. They announced a change to their pricing structure.
They're like, by the way, this is what you're going to be doing in the future.
And it really set like developers off. What I really thought was interesting about this whole thing was I, as a RPG fan and Dungeons and Dragons fan, just recently went through this exact cycle. I'm telling you.
Oh, that's right.
It's like it is like the exact same thing happened with.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, and I think I might have mentioned it somehow on the show,
you did.
But yeah, it was almost identical to that situation. The biggest difference was that they didn't have the what we have is we have the open source license. That's something that exists, and then Godot was built off of that. Right. So in the other story, they didn't have that privilege, and someone had to come out and kind of be that hero and say, okay, well, here's the license that you can use. That we're gonna remain completely, open or as much as we can be. And so it was just really cool. Like, but the one thing I wanted to point out though is the response from Unity You could almost take both response letters and just change out a few words.
Yep.
And they're like the exact same letter, just about. The scenario is really similar. But so this all spun out of. So I actually watched some like videos today on like the history of Unity and like how it started.
Oh,
and,
okay. You went in depth.
Yeah, I went in pretty deep. And but I'm not going to go through all that in this segment. But I think where people's first sort of irritation with Unity began whenever it got taken over by the he was previously head of EA Games.
Yes,
John Riccitello.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Riccitello. Yeah, you said it. It sounded right. So he came from EA Games, and he was at EA Games during one of its worst, like they're famous for pay to win, and pay to win. Like, was it pay to win again, pay to keep playing? Like, like they're famous for that, and especially during the time period where he was there. And then he took over Unity at a certain point. I knew that, but I didn't really know. I'm about to read 2 quotes by him. I didn't know these 2 quotes, and also I didn't know enough about the guy to know why people hated him, other than that he was from EA Games, and I knew people hated EA Games. As a matter of fact, telling a friend
guilty
of mine,
by association.
Right? Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. So, and like even telling a friend of mine that I was learning Unity, and that you and I, we've been talking about on the podcast and stuff. He was like, "Oh yeah, great game engine, like terrible CEO, but great game engine." And I was like, "Yeah, I drive a Tesla. I know exactly what you mean." But I didn't know. I had no idea the extent of it. So one of the famous quotes, I think you and I have even talked about this before, but I didn't know that it came from this guy. But we've talked about before how some games want to sell you bullets. That comes from a quote from this John guy.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah, so he says, when you're 6 hours into, and I wanted to read this because I think it's important to the later part of the Unity story.
Okay.
So he said this when he was at EA. When you're 6 hours into playing Battlefield and you run out of ammo in your clip, and we ask you for $1 to reload, you're really not that price sensitive at that point in time. And then he goes on to say that he thinks this is a good concept for like the industry. And what he's referring to here is not necessarily literally selling you a clip of ammo, but that there's times where if you were starting up a game, you're looking at purchasing a game, you're in the loading screen of a map, you're those moments you may not be willing to nickel and dime yourself over small add-ins to a game. But that's not always true. There's times where you've invested so much and you are in the heat of the moment, and at the end, in the middle of some process, you are more likely to be willing to pay that nickel or dime and
to go further.
Right. And I think that is an interesting philosophy in comparison to but by interesting, I mean it's terrible. It's what's ruining it's what's ruining games today.
Bo, where are you going with this?
I think it's interesting how it compares to the Unity situation. Whenever we go into the details of the new pricing structure, I think that there's an element of, well, if you're already heavily invested into this game engine and you've already got a game that is releasing next year, or a DLC, or like you're heavily invested in this, then in that moment we can ask you for more money, and all you can do is pay it or start all over again. You know?
Oh man.
And so I think that quote is relevant to Unity, even though it is from EA Games. He also said, so this quote was whenever he's talking about game developers in this quote. So this must be from after he was at Unity. He says, Ferrari and some of the other high-end car manufacturers still use clay and carving knives. It's a very small portion of gaming industry. It's a very small portion of the gaming industry that work that way. And some of these people are my favorite people in the world to fight with. They're the most beautiful and pure, brilliant people. They're also some of the biggest effing idiots. He didn't say effing.
Man. Yeah. Well,
we marked the show as not having explicit language. So that's like a direct, like, he ended up coming out and apologizing for that quote. But that quote is like so strikingly like obtuse, because it's like in this quote, your customers are the game developers.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of them are not going to be making games. Well, if the vast majority of Unity developers, I got to imagine, is not making any money off of Unity. So like, they're the effing idiots. Like, they're the, like, he's calling his base effing idiots.
Pretty much
in that quote, which is why he came out and apologized for it. But so I just say all that to illustrate that there's like already bad blood with the leadership of Unity. There's the community is like using the Unity engine because either they're unaware or they are aware, but the engine is just, they're invested in it. They understand it. It's easy to learn. They've learned that, and that's what they want to use. Or they could believe that it's better than other engines for various reasons. I mean, I actually really like the Unity engine. I tried to get away from it and use Godot a few times, and I kept coming back to Unity. So I mean, I understand it. I understand the appeal of it. And I don't think you have to love the person running the company in order to enjoy the product. So let's talk about the pricing and packaging changes that were announced September 12th.
You mean the gouging?
So this, I actually have this from gamesfromscratch.com. That's the YouTuber that was the most, he's the one I watched the most videos of. And I think he was kind of the either the first to talk about this, or he was like the most popular to talk about it.
Okay. Yeah.
I watched like 12 of his videos to get prepared for this. So I have to admit, I kind of have I've only watched his and a few others, but it's like mostly his videos. So if there's some side of the story that he didn't cover, then I apologize. But also I had to use his link because they've changed this now. This is no longer, unless I go to the Internet Archive or somewhere.
They changed it, right? So you can't. Yeah, I gotcha.
So, they said, we are introducing a Unity runtime fee that is based upon each time a qualifying game is downloaded by an end user. We chose this because each time a game is downloaded, the Unity runtime is also installed. Also,
really?
Yeah. But they install it and they keep it there just in case I need it. Also, we believe that an initial install-based fee allows creators to keep the ongoing financial gains from player engagement, unlike a revenue share. I have no idea what that is supposed to mean.
It doesn't sound right.
Yeah. So, all right. So I get the first part. They're saying, I don't agree with the first part, but I get what they're saying. So they're saying that because they have to host and you have to download their runtime at install, then they're saying that they should collect some fee for doing that, which I think they're already getting a lot of fees from these creators, and I doubt that this is a necessary need. Somebody like Godot makes a statement like this, they would probably reach out to the community and say, hey, we're financially strapped for cash and struggling to host the materials needed in order to build games with Godot. Can we get some donations? Otherwise, we might have to start asking for donations at the download. But that is not the situation here.
No,
nor is it
not at all.
Like Godot's not in that situation either. I don't know. But anyway, that seems like to me that's what they're trying to say is, hey, we're doing a service by hosting this, therefore you should have to pay whenever you download it. But the next statement about we believe that an initial install-based fee allows creators to keep the ongoing financial gains from player engagement, unlike a revenue share. I think that is a fancy way of saying that if you did a revenue share, you would be paying more money than if you just paid per install. Which we'll read further, but we'll go back to that. There are two games qualify for Unity runtime fee after two criteria have been met. One, the game has passed a minimum revenue threshold in the last 12 months. And two, the game has passed a minimum lifetime install count. We set high revenue and game install thresholds to avoid impacting those who have yet to find scale, meaning they don't need to pay the fee until they have reached a significant success. Only games that meet the following thresholds qualify for Unity runtime fee. So Unity Personal and Unity Plus, those that have made $200,000 US or more in the last 12 months and have at least 200,000 lifetime game installs. Unity Pro and Unity Enterprise, those that have made $1 million or more in the last 12 months and have at least 1 million lifetime game installs. And then they have a chart down here that breaks it down even further. So basically, if you're Unity Personal, meaning you just have the basic install of Unity, you're releasing your game under that. Or if you have Unity Plus, then $200,000 a year.
Right.
And it's not an or, it's an and 200,000 lifetime downloads, which even if you're selling your game for $1 a piece, you're going to meet that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But if you're Unity Pro, then it's $1 million, 1 million downloads. And then also if you're Unity Pro, they break it down to these other, you know, it's a straight 20 cents per install for the Unity Personal users, but Unity Pro, they have it broken down based on breaking points.
I like how they're at the top there. They're trying to make it seem like, oh, we're protecting the people who don't have a lot of, you know, downloads. We're gonna let you like increase yourself. We're gonna try and help you get to that point, and then we'll charge you.
Well, the interesting thing is that they did get rid of. So they got rid of Unity. What was the terminology? Oh, it's in my notes over here. I just have to move things around again. So Unity Personal used to have a revenue limit of $100,000. So the only way you qualify for Unity Personal is if you make less than $100,000. Anything beyond that, then you have to pay for a seat of Unity Pro or Unity Plus.
Okay.
And then with this new proposal, they're upping that to $200,000.
Right.
And they're saying, but if you go beyond that, then it's 20 cents per install, which when you first hear this, that sounds like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. 20 cents per install, but it's forever. It's if I pay for your game and then I download it every week, then that's 20 cents per download.
Yeah. And or if you're or if you're like me, like installing it on Windows, installing it on Linux, and installing it on this other Linux, you know, that's 3 charges. That's or what, your 60
your
cents?
Steam Deck and your PC.
Right.
Or you could add up to Xbox. Like they're even counting like console downloads. Yeah. And that adds another wrinkle is how do they even do that? Are they going to reach out to Microsoft to ask for that 20 cents per download? If you have Game Pass or something like that, where you're not actually buying the game, know. Do they still have to, does the developer have to pay 20 cents for that download? Like how do they even sort that out? Like that's just, they didn't think about this. I feel like they didn't even think about this in any detail. They were like, "Oh man,
we need more money." This whole situation is not looking too good, man. They're like taking us.
I don't know how much more money it actually provides. I mean, I guess
I don't know. They have to be thinking something like that. Like they have to be like, "Oh man, we got so big. We weren't thinking we're going to get this big. So now we got to make more money off of our situation."
I'll tell you what they're thinking. They're thinking that whenever you are 6 hours into playing Battlefield and you run out of ammo in your clip and we ask you for $1 to reload, you're really not that price sensitive at that point in time. I think that's exactly what they were thinking right there.
It is. Yep. It is. You could pretty much replace Unity for ammo clip or the runtime, I should say.
Whenever you're 6 years into developing your game and you run out of installs,
Oh man,
we ask you for 20 cents on every install. You're really not that price sensitive at that point in time.
That's just horrible. Just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean this. I don't know. What? When I first heard about this, I kind of was like on the side of like, you know, they're allowed to ask for more money if they feel like they need it.
Yeah, it's not an open source thing. Like it's not
open source. Yeah, it's like they're allowed to do this. Like that was my first initial take on it. But then the more I heard about like the what makes it so wrong is they even said that this is affecting all versions of Unity. So if you have already made a game, and when you made that game, you made it under the impression that the present day license would apply to at least that LTS version of, at least that version of Unity that you used. You were expecting this license to apply.
Exactly.
And then starting January 1st next year, you're going to start have to pay 20 cents per download. Even if you've already hit, you look at when a game comes out, people buy it. If it's a popular game, people buy it like then, and then it may just have then it's just trickling dividends, for however long people are interested in it. It's just,
and who's to say they weren't going to retroactively do this, where it's like they have a count right now of how many downloads you've had, and they're just going to charge you for all the downloads you've ever had.
They said, all right, so that is not, I don't think that might be clarified in what they say.
Okay.
They're not doing that though. So
you're more up on this than I am. So I'm just
the only reason why people ask that question. So that's not a wild out of left field question. People did ask that question. And it was clarified, but I don't know that it's in the original statement. I don't think they clarified that in the original statement.
Yeah, I was just curious because that would be horrible. That would be the ultimate
I don't think legally they'd be allowed to do that. Even what I just said, I think that if you agree to a licensing agreement, because this came up in the Dungeons and Dragons thing too,
right?
And then they try to retroactively change that agreement. Well, then what was the point of the agreement? That's what it's for,
right?
They can't do that. They literally cannot do that.
Even an open source license works like that.
It's exactly. Now, I think this is one of those situations where it would have to go to court and get challenged. But my opinion is and I think the opinion of many, many, many people, they wouldn't be able to do that. I think this was rushed out in such a way that they had not even clarified that before they made this. And I also think that it's in the same thing that WotC was doing for the Dungeons and Dragons situation. I think that it was like we want to put out we're trying to cover all the bases and possibilities that we may go into. And so it's going to be much more broad than we're actually going to. We actually only want this much, but just to cover all bases, we're asking for this much. You know what I mean? I kind of feel like it was that situation.
I agree. But I also think it was exactly what you said. And I think Mr. CEO was
they definitely are trying to move. Yeah, they're definitely trying to move.
I don't care what you think.
Yeah.
I want this. I really think after hearing what you've said and that quote, I'm pretty sure there were people in Unity probably being like, well, I'm not so sure we should do this. And then he's like, no, we're going to do this. That's my impression on that.
No, I thought about that. I thought about that too. And that is, I don't think that's a crazy impression. I just don't think that in a corporation of that size, one person could really I
don't know. It depends on how much he owns of it.
I don't know. But it's definitely
Elon bought Twitter.
Yeah, I know. It's not. It's definitely like a.
X. Sorry, X.
X. Yeah, come on. Get with the times. Yeah. So that's been the drama, and the reaction to it I find really interesting and a lot of fun. So. Probably the biggest reaction on Twitter X, there's a collective letter of game developers. So in this letter, join the collective, unitedgamedevs.com. Now they have an update here from the 22nd, which is, oh man, it's later in the month than I thought it was. I was about to say, which was like yesterday. That's way later in the month than I thought it was. So they've got an update here. I'll read that after we get to Unity's update. But to start off with, they said, this is a collective letter from game development companies turning off all Iron Source and Unity ad monetization until new conditions are reviewed. So,
oh man,
Iron Source is, now I didn't know anything about this.
Yeah, me neither, not at all.
I don't know anything about Iron Source until I started researching this, but it is apparently a service that they use to insert ads into games, and that's part of how Unity makes its money is off of that ad revenue if you opt into the Iron Source service. And then also you make money for having the ad in your game. It's like a revenue share, revenue share kind of thing. So in this letter, I won't read everything word for word, but let's see what the first paragraph says. We are the collective voice of the game development industry, developers, game designers, artists, and business minds. Passionate about our craft, we've invested years in shaping an industry that touches the lives of millions worldwide. As stakeholders, we cannot remain silent whenever a decision threatens to destabilize this ecosystem. Unity has been an instrumental force in the industry. In many ways, it has inspired us to create new immersive worlds and empower the plethora of dynamic and independent developers to bring their visions to life. We've played our part in this journey, moving the industry forward and creating yada, yada, yada. We've hosted Unity-centered events. I'm trying to get to where's the good stuff? Where was there like off with their heads? Where's the pitchforks? Where's the pitchforks? To put it in relatable terms, what if automakers suddenly decided to change us from what if automakers started trying to charge us for every mile driven on the car that you bought a year ago? The impact on consumers and the industry at large would be seismic. I think it's a really good analogy that we should come back to. So they have all these backers now. And what this is these are game developers that have pledged to stop using Ironforge. So they're losing money, but it's also hurting Unity because Unity is also not getting ad revenue. So
exactly,
this is their way of hurting them where it counts.
Yep. And it sucks because everyone's taking a loss at that point.
Yeah. But it's it's calculated. And also if this were to go through without them shouting about it, then they take a loss that way too. So I mean, I think they see it as it's a trade-off, and hopefully they win. And then also there was a statement from Unity on Twitter that suggested, I don't know if they outright said it, but I think they all but outright said it, that if you use Iron Source instead of any of the competitors to host ads, then they could set up a maybe we don't charge you the 20 cents per download as long as we're making ads off of the game.
Little under the table situation going. Hey, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Here you go.
Yeah. So it seems to me like this is all just to drive. I think this is to drive small but successful developers. If you're a small developer and you're making $200,000 on your game in a year, you're in some. I mean, I remember what podcast they used to say. If you're getting, it was a really small number of downloads. It was like 200 downloads. Like if you're getting 275 downloads or something, then you're in the top like 4% of all podcasts, because there's 20,000 podcasts out there that aren't getting any downloads.
Yeah, right.
I think there's a similar situation.
4%.
Yeah, like if you're a game developer, you release a game and it makes $200,000 in a year. You're in some percentage of I don't know what it is for game developers.
Small slice of the pie.
Yeah, there's just so many people downloading Unity and then never making a dime off of it that you're like in the top 2% of all Unity developers. But I think that they're trying to say, okay, if you're one of those people, then maybe just put ads in your game. and use Iron Source, and then you can avoid that 20 cent per install fee. And maybe that's the way to go instead of not having ads in your game. And then also, you could upgrade to a Unity Pro seat. And then you got to reach $1 million. You think you're going to make $1 million? You think you're going to hit $1 million in the next year?
Yeah.
Like, I doubt it. All you got to do is pay $2,000 for a Unity Pro seat, and then
that's it.
Yeah,
$2,000.
But then so they're trying to get people to do all these cost calculations about which license they should use, and it's just intentionally vague, and it's just really scummy. So in response, they released a new pricing and packaging. And for this, I do have their actual link.
Okay.
An open letter to our community. And this is written by Mark Whitten. And it's signed by Mark Whitten, which is exactly what WotC did. I can't remember the guy's name, but they put a name on it. And they made this, like, you can get mad at Unity for this decision, but can you really get mad at Mark? This isn't Mark's fault. You would get like, all right, big corporation, only looking out for his shareholders. Sure, everybody hates us, but you'd be an asshole if you hated Mark. Mark's a nice guy.
I don't know. I've seen people pretty much crush one person before online.
So that was one of the similarities. So if we read some of this to our community. I'm Mark Whitten, the nicest guy. I have a dog. I bet he's the bestest boy. He's probably throwing a frisbee to his golden retriever right now.
Yeah, it's a picture on the
side. and I lead the Unity. I lead the Unity Create, which includes the Unity engine and editor teams. I wanted to start by saying I'm sorry. I'm just misguided. We should have spoken with more of you and should have incorporated more of you in feedback before announcing our new runtime free fee policy. Our goal with the policy is to ensure we can continue to support you today and tomorrow and keep deeply investing in our game engine. You are what makes Unity great, and we know we need to listen and work hard to earn your trust. We have heard your concerns, and we are making changes in the policy. Listen, we're doing this. We announced to address them. We made an announcement.
We've changed.
Yeah. We made an announcement, people. Our Unity personal plan will remain free, and there will be no runtime fee for games built on Unity personal. So I got to say, I actually think that's a really good thing to come out of this, is that they're still saying Unity personal is free, which it always was free. Thanks a lot, Mark. But the cap from 100,000 to 200,000, they're keeping that. We will be increasing the cap from $100,000 to $200,000, and we will remove the requirement to use the Made with Unity splash screen. Which, oh my gosh, how many times do you see that stupid splash screen? It has such a reputation. Like, if you earnestly build a game on Unity, it's like automatically when that splash screen comes up, it's like, people are like, oh, so just another Unity asset flip.
Here we go.
So they're allowing you to get rid of that. No game with less than $1 million in trailing 12 months revenue will be subject to the fee. So no game with less than 1 million in trailing 12 months of revenue. So they're saying if you made $400,000, $500,000, it's not going to be affected by this. For those creators on Unity Pro and Unity Enterprise, we are also making changes based on your feedback. The runtime fee policy will only apply beginning with the next LTS version of Unity shipping in 2024 and beyond. So that's really important. Should have been
the thing in the first place.
Yeah, I think it was the truth. I think this goes back to what I was saying. If anybody had ever challenged this in court, which I'm sure that someone would have, I I don't think that would have held up. I think they would have had to. They would have had to say, okay, starting now, from now on, in this next version and on, they can't go back and say, okay, if you made a game 5 years ago on Unity, that we're now going to start charging you these dividends, even though you never agreed to that license. I just don't think that's possible.
Yeah, no.
But it's important that they spelled it out here in plain text, and
Yes.
and so I think that's a good thing. Your games that are currently shipped and the projects you are currently working on will not be included unless you choose to upgrade them to this new version of Unity. So even if it's launched in 2024, if it's made on a 2023 version of Unity, you're all good. We will make sure that you can stay on the terms applicable for the version of Unity editor that you're using. For games that are subject to the runtime fee, we are giving you a choice of either 2.5% revenue share, which by the way is less than Unreal. Because whenever all this went down and I started thinking, well, maybe I should be looking at different game engines, which by the way, you should be anyway. Don't just use Unity.
Yeah, agreed.
Anyway, let's talk about that at the end. The lessons learned from this.
Yes.
They're 5%, I'm pretty sure. I think it's $1 million, 5%.
Wow.
So 2.5 doesn't sound that bad in that scenario. Or a calculated amount based on the number of new people engaging with your game each month. Both of these numbers are self-reported from data you already have available. You will always be billed the lesser amount. We want to continue to build the best engine creators. We truly love that. And then they talk about they're going to do a live fireside chat hosted by Jason Wyman. So I think that's I actually don't think that's a bad response. It's funny how similar it is to Watsy's response, because all of this is the same. Watsy said, okay, they were trying to do the whole everything that was created under the old license is also going to apply to this. And then they came out and said, okay, actually, we don't think we can do that. Well, they didn't say we don't think we can do that, but they said we're not going to do that. Yada, yada, yada. I'm telling you, this letter and that letter is so similar.
Maybe they were both made with AI.
Yeah, maybe the same. We got the same AI bot.
This Mark Witten is not even real.
Is he version 3 or version 4? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. It depends on if they paid or not. I don't think they paid.
No, the thing about this is I actually don't think it's a bad. I don't think that's a bad. Like if they had just came out. So here's the thing: people would be pissed anyway because they're raising the price.
Yeah,
they're still trying to get more money.
There's always a subset of people that are going to be mad about anything.
Let's go back and look at, before I respond too much, let's go back and look at the collective letter, how there was that thing at the top. And I'm not going to share my screen. I'll just read it real quick. So the main problem is that the main problem is that an update to the runtime fee doesn't solve the fundamental issue. Its existential impact on the game dev community. Building a game business while paying runtime fees, even with its proposed revenue cap, is not an option. And many developers will use the old version of Unity engine to avoid that fee. The latest announcement shows again that the game developer community has no choice but to explore and focus on other engines. Sadly, Unity is also unwilling to openly communicate with the community in a true dialogue. Hey, you got Mark, baby. What else do you want? To find common ground and a workable solution. Instead, it chose again to inform its community of its changes as a fact. The market rules are simple. Everyone prefers to do business with partners whose changes in terms and conditions are transparent and consider developers' interests. That is why the community will not rely on Unity in the long run and already started migrating to other engines. As United Game Devs, we will focus on fostering and investing in open source engines. Sounds like a good response to me.
Yeah. Open source wins. I mean, that's good to me.
Yeah. I mean, so what have we learned? What have we learned here? What have we learned?
Don't use proprietary software.
It is kind of funny that we get to sit back and laugh at this situation. There's one more thing I want to throw out as I think this is important to the final bit of conversation here. All right. So, this was a response from the
I
Terraria.
did see this.
Yeah, this was posted. I only knew about this because it was posted in our Discord. So Relogic, the creators of Terraria. Have you ever played Terraria?
I have not. I have wanted to, and I just never got to it.
I wasn't really that into it, but it seems like the kind of game that you would like. I played it with some friends like a long time ago at a. Is it like a
Minecraft side scroller kind of?
Yeah, it's like a side scroller like Minecraft kind of game. Yeah, you like.
That's why I never thought I'd like it, because I was like, that's weird. How does that work?
That is the part that I can't get over. That is the part that I don't like about it, is that it's a side scroller. But I played it like it's been around for a long time, because I played it at like a classic raid party, or like LAN party, where everybody brought their computers over to our house and we did, and someone suggested this game. We all installed it, and that's literally the only time I ever played it.
That's hilarious.
I think it was like $4.99 or something. So we were all willing to, sure, I'll buy it for $5, and I never played it again. But what they did here is really, really cool, and we have to give them their roses for this. So the team at Relogic has been watching the recent events surrounding Unity with both interest and sadness. The loss of a formerly leading and user-friendly game engine to the dark forces that negatively impact so much of the gaming industry has left us dismayed, to put it mildly. While we do not personally use Unity, outside of a few elements of our console/mobile platforms, we feel like we cannot sit idly by as these predatory moves are made against studios everywhere. We unequivocally condemned and reject the recent terms of service fee changes proposed by Unity and the underhanded way they are rolling it out. The flippant manner with which years of trust cultivated by Unity were cast aside for yet another way to squeeze publishers, studios, and gamers is the saddest part. That this move was wholly unnecessary pushes things into the tragedy category, a cautionary tale the industry will not soon forget. That's kind of what I was trying to get at earlier, but I couldn't say that eloquently. It's like, it would be different if it was a necessary change, but this is completely unnecessary. It's just to increase,
just a money grab. That's it.
It's just I don't even think they really care about the money. They care about signaling it to their shareholders. So
okay. I mean, ultimately it's the money, but the shareholders look at the money. Therefore,
it's exactly it happens to so many.
It does. It does.
It is crazy. We do not feel that a simple public statement is sufficient. Even if Unity were to recant their policies and statements, the destruction of trust is not so easily repaired. We strongly feel that it is now equally important to get behind some of the other up-and-coming open-source engines, lighting some candles in an otherwise dark moment. To that end, we are donating $100,000 to each of the open-source engines listed below. Additionally, we are sponsoring each of these projects with $1,000 a month, each moving forward. So $1,000 to Godot and the FNA. I don't know FNA project.
I don't know what that is. I have to look into that.
All we ask in return is that they remain good people and keep doing all that they can to make these engines powerful and approachable for developers everywhere. Relogic has always been supportive of game development and indie studios that do things the right way. We feel that our actions in this moment are the best way to carry that mission forward by accelerating and strengthening competing open source game engines. We hope to empower and assist studios that are struggling with how best to proceed given the recent events. So I thought that was Totally king response there from Real Logic.
Yep, they hit it pretty much every point.
Yeah, I know. Reading that, I was thinking like we should just read that instead of this entire podcast. We should just read that. They did such a good.
This meeting could have been an email.
Literally, this podcast could have been a screenshot on Twitter. But yeah. So I think that if it's all about the approach, man, they're allowed to ask for more money. Like, they may push people away. I think they're going to. But if they had approached it with this second setup, which you can tell was much more thought out and is in response to what the community wants, whereas the first was in response to what shareholders want and was just put out quickly to signal some in. And people see right through that and they respond to it. I'm glad that it's heartening to have this response. And I'm so glad to see projects like Godot growing from this. I hope that it continues. I really hope this is not just a flash in the pan, which is another thing I'll say is I followed the reason why I keep bringing up the WotC thing. I followed it the whole time and I was passionate about it. All my friends were passionate about it. There was a D&D night where we got into we weren't angry with each other, but we were all just like talking over each other. Like, oh, you won't believe they did that. It was this huge thing. Everywhere I went, people were talking about it. And today, nobody talks about it. And everybody's playing Dungeons and Dragons still. People are already posting videos online about why they're not switching away from Unity. They're going back to Unity after they spent a week trying to learn Godot and gave up. I'm not saying Unity should disappear and they should be like scorned forever from this moment, but I think what we should learn from this moment is, and I got this typed out, but like many other companies, Blizzard, Wizard of the Coast, they may have started out as like a small, passionate company that seemed to have its heart in the right place and seemed to be designed to build a community and to foster a community and to deliver to that community. They're not anymore. They're a corporation. And they are completely committed to delivering to shareholders and to signaling profits. And you know you know what? That's okay. It's just we can't keep pretending that there's something else. Like that's what they are. Exactly. And I think that what we should learn from this is that if you're using Unity, use it to learn. Use it to learn about game development, to make you a better developer so that whenever you do, because here's another thing, even if they were a perfect company, they're not going to be around forever. People aren't going to be making games on Unity 25 years from now. Like things change. You know what I mean? And you need, if you learn one thing and you never step outside of that, then what good did it really do you in the long run?
And I'm also learning that game development is not all about the engine. There's a lot that goes into game development that you can learn outside of the engine before you even start coding.
Oh yeah. Dude, I regret not learning Blender. We talked about this amongst each other, not on the podcast, but I spent so many weeks trying to learn Godot and Unity and experimenting with different things. And the truth is, I should have been learning Blender because that's useful, and so many other ways.
You can just throw the assets in and be like, there we go.
But it's I don't know. That I just think that's what we should take away from this is that. Yeah, I'm not telling people to never use Unity again, but I'm just saying don't put your flag on that hill and think that's all you're ever going to do ever, because it could change overnight. And I feel for these game developers that are above $1 million a year.
Yeah.
Cult of the Lamb and Cult of the Lamb, they posted on Twitter that they were going to delete their game on January 1st because they couldn't do this. And I don't know if it was they posted that sentence. I don't know if it was they were being facetious or not, but
that would be the worst case scenario is people start deleting their games. That's
because
bad.
You're putting the because what would happen is in the world where this actually happened, then you would release a game you would make as much money as you can off of it. And then there would be this like equation of diminishing returns. How long do I
punished?
How long do I keep the game available until I'm losing money from people reinstalling it, and then I take it offline? You know, like
yep.
It's just a crazy that's just an absurd like way to. I don't even know what to call it.
I don't know. I don't know, but it is mitigated now. It's not nearly as bad as it was going to be, but still, even though those few people who are making that much money are still going to be paying this.
Yeah.
And I mean, they can try lying to Unity because it says self-reported, but I'm pretty sure Unity must know something.
Yeah, it says self-reported with tools you already have. So I'm thinking that you must have some interface or something that tracks that. Like, I think they know. I don't know. I'm
pretty sure if a game like Valheim's like, oh yeah, we only got 50 users, I'm pretty sure that their Unity's going to be like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. I don't know. This was a cool topic to research and then discuss.
Yeah, definitely something I wouldn't say I wasn't expecting, but at the same time wasn't expecting.
I learned a lot about Unity. I didn't know both sides of the coin. I didn't know about I didn't know about the EA CEO guy. I didn't know about we didn't talk about it, but I learned about the origin of it, and it basically started from three people on a game development user board discussing to each other how to make a game engine. And then they moved near each other and actually just started like building a game engine like from someone's basement. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And and it started from that and has now become this whole other thing. And I don't know. It's so similar to the Blizzard story, you know, where like at one time it was this small indie game development company where like these, you know, losers are doing it together because they love doing it. And then at some point it just becomes like, it's a whole new, it's not the same thing anymore. It's the ship of Theseus or whatever, where it's like every part of the ship has been replaced. Is it's the same ship, you know?
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, we talked about that for like an hour. What else are we talking about this episode?
Oh, we gotta have more.
Is this the end?
I don't know. I think that was good.
So thanks for listening. Probably not a normal episode for us. But we'll get together next week and do our normal fun discussion. And
I still think it was fun.
Oh, it was a blast. I actually think sometimes this is more fun. So I'm glad we did it. And we'll see you next week. And peace.
See ya.